Hello, everybody. Welcome to Subconscious Sundays. I am your host, Rev April Kling, and with me, as always, co-host Timothy Freeman. Welcome,
Hello,
Tim.
everybody. Thank you. Great to be
I'm
here.
glad to be here. Yeah. So today's topic, the liveliest topic we've ever had. Like, hands down, the most weighed in on topic we've ever had. And I think it has something to do with the fact that it's a little racy. It has a cuss word in it.
It's very current, though.
It is very current. I don't think that everybody that commented on this week's topic and this week's question was aware of the kind of current dialogue or the current like meme phrase that it's kind of having this moment. All the same, I think it still added up to a pretty lively response. So anyway, this week's topic: are you the a-hole? Now, okay, for those of you who are uninitiated in this internet phenomenon, there is a website called Reddit, and Reddit has this whole entire subreddit, which is basically a conversation silo that's referred to as AITA, am I the asshole? And people jump in there and say, here's a situation. I'm not really sure who the asshole is in the situation. Is it me or the other person or other people? And I would say more often than not, people are looking for some sort of validation for their own decisions and their own behaviors. And it's pretty rare, actually, when somebody is actually in there being like, hey, I think I messed up. It's rare. It's rare. Most people are looking for validation. But it's an internet phenomenon to the point where there are like many podcasts around this subreddit that like dissect each post and stuff like that, like the most popular posts, really. And also, AITA has become like one of those little abbreviations, alliterations that people use in like common vernacular. Like when we text one another and it's like, hey, sorry, I hope I'm not being the asshole here, but I need you to blah blah blah. Like setting a boundary or whatever we're doing with a friend. It's like, I don't want to be the asshole here, So am I the asshole? Is like,
I'm the one who's like, AITA, can you fill me in on this acronym? Clue.
Yeah, which is why I feel the need to kind of preface it all, because I think a lot of people were a bit confused why I would be saying such a thing or titling it this way. That explains it, I hope. And I also want to just kind of couch this in a little bit of context, like personally too, which I will do after we set some intentions. So let's do that first. Right away, I want to say that Subconscious Sundays is a fun and entertaining and laid back way to discuss the potentially serious and heavy topics we encounter in life.
And we are open and inviting here. We welcome you if you have any questions or ideas to respectfully bring to this conversation.
And this is our weekly ritual. We gather you all and share community in this virtual sacred space to share our knowledge and our respective expertises, and while hearing your responses, because without your responses, the show really doesn't have a lot of meat.
That's right. And then we have some core values here. We are respectful of everyone's individual journey. We're rooted in compassion for the self and others. We're here to promote growth and expansion and create a supportive community.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So let's dive right into it, shall you? Just a little bit of personal context here. I recently had a falling out with a friend, and it's somebody Tim knows. It's not like a big giant falling out. Like, it's not a horrible thing that's created a giant amount of drama in my life, but I actually had to do the AITA path with Tim as my bestie and just be like, hey, I need somebody to kind of double check me on this here. And Tim gladly, I actually did this right after or right before one of our shows recently. Like we did it here in the studio. I was like, hey, could you just kind of, and I sent you the text. I was like, could you just like make sure that, like, tell me if I'm being the asshole here? And Tim determinedly was like, no, you're not. You're not. And I actually, Tim, like, just to get like a roundness here of answers, I passed it on to two other people who do not know this person, right? And they were both like, oh yeah, no, you're so not the asshole. But I felt so guilty about the whole situation that, like, I really needed somebody to kind of tell me whether or not I was being the asshole. Kind of came into this scene. And I also want to kind of also give you a little bit of like view into the backstage area for Tim and myself. We keep a list of topic ideas as they come up. Actually, Tim keeps that list, and it's like part of his like duties as far as subconscious Sundays. And it's like pretty vital because if we just toss ideas back and forth, I think we'd forget them. But Tim records everything. Like he keeps track of all the different ideas that we come up with. And this is one that we came up with a long time ago, and I just never really gotten around to it. But this time around, it was like, I want to go here. I want to go here because I've had to go there recently, and I want to talk about this. So we pulled this one out of the hat this week. It's burning. It's burning. Clearly by all of you. So welcome to the conversation, and please do not be shy about jumping into the comments if you're joining us live.
Yeah. And I think too, like, there's a lot of comments here, and I want to let you get right into covering that. But so it's am I the a-hole? But I think we're also talking about more generally like the phenomenon of being an a-hole and why we feel entitled to act that way at times, or how we react to people acting that way and all that.
Oh yeah. And I would say that the commentary was very balanced in that response. Like we got a lot of different angles on the a-hole. Okay, let's dive in. So the question this week was, how do you personally handle the realization that you are, in fact, the asshole? Okay. So I got just a lot of laugh emojis in response to this. Like, if you're not familiar with the phenomenon of AITA, this question is probably coming into your screen on Facebook or Threads or Instagram, wherever you encountered it, and was like, what is she on about? Like, you probably thought I was trying to stir up some drama. I'm not. I mean, I kind of am, only to have something to talk about this week. But I really wanted to know how people deal with the fact that they may have aired in an interpersonal reaction. I want to know how people deal with the fact that maybe they had to be a bit of a jerk, or maybe they didn't have to be a bit of a jerk, but they are having to, So
because
anyway,
sometimes we feel like we have to.
Sometimes we feel like we have to, and sometimes I feel like this is the case for my situation. Sometimes I really wasn't, but it came across that I was, just simply because I was saying yes with parameters instead of an unqualified, oh, absolutely, please just walk all over me,
Or boundaries.
Setting boundaries. Exactly. I wasn't even saying no, which I kind of feel like is the real boundary. My boundaries were like, here's the door, and this is the key to get in. And they were like, screw your key.
So, and this right here, like, illustrates kind of the thing. A lot of people, some people don't think about it. Some people think about it constantly afterwards. What am I? What happened there?
It's not often that I find myself this spun out, but I was so spun out for like days. I'm still a little bit spun out, but I'm like, I wouldn't change a thing, right? Okay. Anyway, without further ado, so this is a response that I got, and I'll kind of offer commentary of my own after each one. So, how many people in 2025 are that self aware? Not many. I can be an asshole, but usually I think I have a reason for it because I was pushed to that point. However, I don't think that is overall me. I think that she's right. Korea's right on several points. Like, I agree with her. Not that many people in this modern age are that self aware. I don't really encounter a lot of self awareness. The only self awareness I actually do encounter is in my work as a counselor. I encounter so much self awareness in that work. Aside from that, though, not much. Not much. In
Well, and
friendships.
that's so interesting too, because we both kind of swim in these waters of self-awareness. That's kind of the work we
Hmm.
do.
Hmm.
So my view is skewed on this, maybe, but
Yeah.
I see it being completely two-sided. Like where more people than ever are not, and more people than ever are more self-aware than ever.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It's kind of gotten more polar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. And this touches also on the justification that you discussed prior to us opening this conversation. Push to the point. I feel like I have a reason for it. I don't think that's generally me. Actually, I know Korea. I would agree with her. She's so not like so not. She's. I would say that Korea. If you're watching, you're a very assertive person, and that probably rubs people the wrong way, and it shouldn't. But Korea's awesome. Like I can't imagine her doing or saying anything that would be a-holish. But anyway, thanks, Korea. All right, on to Jason's response. Did my truth disturb their peace or just their comfort? I tried to see the line between honesty and harm, but sometimes it's drawn by my own brokenness. Oh, so talk about self-aware. I would say Jason is not somebody who shies away from conflict, especially when needed, right? Like he's somebody who's willing to put his money where his mouth is, right? And
Well, Jason, I don't
yeah,
know you, but thank you so much for you got always such thoughtful comments here, and thanks for bringing this into it.
yeah, he's real thoughtful. Yeah, thank you, Jason. He may even be with us live. So Jason, if you're with us, say something in the comments, even if it's just a heart emoji. I know that you are a little bit shy about that, but yeah, this is one of several actually where people answered the question that I asked with their own question that they asked themselves, which I thought was really cool. And I think that is a really good indication of self awareness. So thank you again, Korea, for bringing that into the fold. So Nikki says sometimes being quiet for the lack of having to deal with the drama is good. Sometimes I have to be that guy and call out shitty behavior. So it sucks, but I care less and less about being perceived as the asshole, right? So then there's this other angle, right? Of like, she's talking about how she has to be the asshole to call out an asshole and how that could be perceived as being the asshole. And that is exactly why I wanted to bring this forward because this is a really like funky dynamic. The
Layered.
asshole thing, it's so perspective based. Like it's really depends on the eye of the beholder here. Like it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. Okay. So then Aaron brings a self aware response too. It's happened to me so many times. I used to put up a fight and beat myself up over it, but now I don't have that much energy. So, what I think Aaron is talking about is the dynamic of atonement, about how atonement is sort of this balance of like, and then I'm not going to be able to put bears in the bottom part today in the footer today, but Bear was like talking about like self-flagellation and stuff like that too. So I wanted to just acknowledge Bear, if you're watching, that came up when she commented as well. So this idea that atonement has to be some sort of like like self-punishment or whatever, and that people don't have that much energy for, right? Like maybe we don't want to have self-awareness. Maybe we don't want to acknowledge we've been the asshole because there's a lot of energy that has to be put into the atonement process. And I want to just acknowledge here that atonement in our culture, aside from a few like Abrahamic religious practices, atonement is really not something we culturally are very into in the West, right? Atonement tends to be so adjacent to the grief process in my view, and we are a very grief averse culture. So there's that. Yeah.
I have a question for you, April.
Mhm.
Atonement. I know what it means, but
Mhm.
like, can you just elaborate on exactly what you're meaning by that here in this
Okay.
context?
So atonement is often brought into the same conversation as forgiveness. The idea of atonement is when you have messed up, you have grieved somebody, aggrieved somebody, or you have done harm to yourself or to someone else, that there's some sort of regret. I don't like to use the word sin, but in the context of religions, it's when you have to like make up for the sin that you've committed, right? So atonement is sort of like the justice that you mete out for the harms and wrongdoings that you do. It's your own way of bringing justice into your own ill actions.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as self-forgiveness, but
Yeah.
it's so much more complicated than that.
Well,
And
it's a
also,
satisfying response to guilt, it seems like, which is on the road to self-forgiveness, maybe.
and I also kind of feel like it's one of those things that no one ever gets really right. There's no perfection in atonement because it's already like that's kind of just the dynamic of justice in general. We could do a whole show about this, honestly. There's no way to get atonement right because it's such a self-facing process that like from the outside it's never going to look right because it's so personal. How one would atone for something they've personally done is so different from the way anybody outside of that situation is going to see it. So atonement is one of those things like forgiveness that has to be sort of self-designed and requires a bit of your own personal creativity and also just has to be considered radically imperfect. But
Yeah.
I think
Thank
it's
you.
yeah, it's the effort that counts, right? So Aaron brings that in, and I want to give some serious compassion to Aaron's answer because it does require so much energy to go into this process and not know where to take it. So Elaine, she says, I pray, and then I'm filled with the relief that I, in fact, do not have to be perfect. That's why I said what I said, because I knew what was coming. Because I do not have to solve the world's problems, right? Um, Elaine is someone who is no stranger to the things I'm talking about. Elaine works in the field of ministry, so it is something that, well, the fact that she mentions that she prays, because I think that prayer is an essential part of this process of atonement and self awareness. And I think that what she's talking about here is that, like, there's no way to get this completely correct. But if we're in dynamic with something deeper, something higher, then that's as close as we're going to get to perfect, right? Cheyenne says that's the first step of change. Basically, what that Cheyenne's referring to is the very asking ourselves the very question: was I the asshole? Was I in fact the asshole? And realizing that you were in fact the asshole in a dynamic or a situation. And if you don't work on it, then you continue to be the asshole, right?
Yeah, and
That's
awareness
how
is always the first step.
yeah, self-awareness. This is how self-awareness comes to be. This is how you do it. This is the essence of self-awareness, what Cheyenne is saying. Acknowledging where you have gotten things wrong, not using this acknowledgement to hurt yourself or cause further harm to yourself or anyone else, but then deciding to make the necessary changes that allow for you to no longer do as much harm or as grievous a harm to other people or to yourself. Okay.
And that sounds like part of atonement, huh?
Oh yeah,
would you
big
say?
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if atonement is just this process of like that's just very temporary or ephemeral, like I think that that's not really complete. I think that atonement pretty much lasts, I wouldn't say forever, but I think that it's perpetual, right? So Michael, another member of the ministry, that I find that it's my shadow self, the bit that perhaps I don't ordinarily deal with, but it pops up every now and then, perhaps more lately, more often than I like. So Michael is talking about how the asshole is just the manifestation of our shadow selves, making themselves very obvious to other people and to ourselves. It's the ways that our shadow self, if we're not facing it, if we're not looking at it, if we're not dealing with the shadow, that it presents itself for all to see. So thank you for that acknowledgement, Michael. And, you know, Michael, you're a cream puff. I adore you. You're amazing. So I can't imagine Michael being. None of these people are. This is all
Well, I
these
want to
people are
jump in on this
stupid.
for just a second too, because some people, I mean, I think a lot of people know what shadow, like what your shadow
Mm-hmm.
is and your shadow self and all this, but we can also boil this down a little more simply in basic terms of
Mm-hmm.
like it's an unmet need. I mean, and I'm not trying to put
Yeah.
words in Michael's mouth or anything, but I'm rephrasing this and saying I find that it's my unmet need, perhaps that I don't ordinarily deal with, but pops up every now and then. That might be a more practical way to put this.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is so well put. Yes. The shadow self is the way that our unmet needs present themselves more openly. Very nice. Very nice. So, Sabrina, own it. Sometimes I'm an a-hole for a reason, but those times it's unintentional and I hurt someone who is definitely undeserving of said a-hole action. I reflect, I apologize, and I learn from it. Yeah. And she moves on. And she moves on. But I know Sabrina, she is self-aware.
Well, and own it. That's the acknowledging.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do have to own it.
You have to own it.
A lot of people don't. Or they own it and they're justified. They're self-justified in that behavior. They own it in that way. They don't own the harm that they're potentially creating.
That's right. Or they own it incompletely, like apologizing for it, but not really making any changes. Or making changes and atoning, but not really making it obvious to anybody else that that's happening. Like not really going back and circling back to the person you've harmed and making it right or whatever. Those things can feel a little incomplete. That can feel a little incomplete. Sometimes people like to be apologized to. We'll talk about that in a minute, actually. So, Gail, very wise, the very wise and wonderful Gail. We like to other. We come up with a standard in which we are good and the other is bad. It's for the ego's self protection. Tim, I knew you would like this one. When we come to understand that they are us and we are them, we begin to soften our hearts and build peace. Gail's a very peace minded woman. So she knows what I'm getting at. Gail knows why I wanted to do this episode the way I did it, because it's about peace building. We're talking about the essence of peace building. It doesn't have to happen, and I will say this as many times as I have to, maybe 3 times an episode if it's necessary. Peace building doesn't have to happen at the level of presidents and congresses and UN. It happens every day in the interactions that we face in our lives on an everyday level. And Gail knows this. Gail is a master of this stuff. So hi, Gail. Um, Not othering people, realizing that we are the same, realizing that we cause harm and they cause harm, and that everybody has something in the dynamic maybe that they need to apologize for and work toward not doing. But as you know, Tim, my theories on peace are based on the fact that these are unmet needs. When there's no peace, there's a lack. There's a lack of needs being met. So maybe we need to acknowledge the unmet needs in order to soften our hearts and build peace, as Gabe would say.
Right. Well, and I like how she points this out in this one succinct little comment here. She points out the drama triangle and then
He knows
how to
about that
step
too.
out of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we
Yep.
talked about that in separate episodes, but basically, anytime you're casting someone else as the villain or casting yourself as the victim, or if you're casting yourself as the hero, is that what it is? Hero? Or is that
Hero,
the
villain, victim,
yeah,
generally,
yeah, yeah. Like
colloquially, yeah.
you're in a drama dynamic, and then
hmm
she prescribes kind of how you might step out of that too, right?
Exactly. So, the last comment I'll leave you with, it was too long, way too long, and not formatted properly, really, to add into this format here down at the bottom. But I want to read it to you because it was shared by a mutual friend of ours by the name of Bonnie. Tim, you remember Bonnie? And Bonnie is a really outspoken and very wise and very intelligent woman who has had to set a few boundaries in her life. And she knows a thing or two about what it's like to feel like one and to feel like other people are being one. And I trust Bonnie with my full being. And I absolutely love how she responded to this. So I switched tabs. I can't see the studio screen right now in case something pops up. Tim, let me know. But Bonnie put up a like 6-7 step thought process on this, and I want to share what she put in here because it's like so rich.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah, thank you, Bonnie. Okay, so this is the Bonnie, am I the asshole thought progression. Okay. Trademark Bonnie. Number one, well, hell, that was a crappy thing to do or say or think. And then two, I'm going to paraphrase her here, but basically she says, how have I come by this naturally? Like, how did this come to be? Like, where did I get this idea? I'm going to paraphrase that one, Bonnie. You probably know why. Number three, was I punching up or punching down? Be honest about power dynamics and who is the actual bully or villain in the situation. That is such an interesting question. Like, that is such the meat of this. Like, the power dynamics. Who's punching up? Who's punching down? Who has the privilege? Who doesn't? Power dynamics. Excellent. Oh my gosh. And it gets better than that. Bonnie's got this. She's got this. Okay. Do I want to apologize? Do I want to? Do I not want to? Do I want to apologize? Hmm. And this is my favorite. Do I think that apologizing will help me, them, or the situation? I'm going to just pause right there. There's 2 more steps. I want to pause right there and acknowledge that some months ago, I think it was about a year ago, actually, somebody apologized to me for something kind of crappy they did to me. And they definitely needed to apologize to me. And I definitely had been waiting for that apology. And I was really glad to finally receive it. But when I asked them why they were apologizing to me, they said something that totally ruined it. And it was because I just needed to feel better about myself. And I was like, then that is not an apology. I will say that same person came back some months later and said that they were sorry again, and it really seemed to mean it, and seemed to have gone through a very thorough and very delightful atonement process, and all's well and everything's cool. But my God, that hurt to hear, like, just so I can like feel better about it. Well, thank you very much. Okay, so the
Yeah,
next two.
I mean that's an element of it, but not to the other person. Yeah.
Not cool. Okay. Okay. So the last 2 steps for Bonnie. Is this behavior something I feel okay in defining me, either to myself or to others? That's a big one. And the last step, will I honestly try to do anything different in the future? Which other comments have covered, but I feel like that's kind of like the really excellent part that kind of rounds it all out in the process, the changing aspect of the atonement process. And then she goes on to say it's a complicated if then choose your own adventure mental exercise. But if I get to the end of it and I'm still okay with myself, I move on and I know I'm in good company. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So thank you, Bonnie. That is great. And I may even, if there's some agreement here, I may even slide it into the description of the video or the comments underneath on YouTube or something like that. Because I just thought that was brilliant. So
You
anyway,
know, Bonnie was one of the very first people who in junior high, when you first get into junior high, you think you don't know anyone. And Bonnie was one of the very first people so Bonnie's definitely not an asshole.
no,
um,
right? Like,
but
okay, uh, 40 years of friendship, right? Let's go there. Do you remember how we had seventh grade science class together and the three of us would pass notes and they would
oh
be the
my
most
God.
hilarious notes? Oh my,
All right.
I
Well, hey, Bonnie, if you're
loved
here,
science class.
maybe we should start passing notes among the three of us again here. But since we have this virtual world, we can do that. But what you said last there, though, about would I do it different? Would I honestly do it any differently in the future or whatever? Would I make a change about this? Like, I have to just interject this because so many people I work with like continue behavior patterns that they want to change and they don't know why, and it like all harkens back to what we were saying, like,
Yeah.
would I continue this, or would I make a change or whatever? Well, unless you address the underlying need behind it, you might continue it whether you want to or not.
Right. Right. So I think, Tim, I'm going to let you take it away with what you have to offer in this
Okay.
regard, because there are tools that you can have to understand all of the steps that Bonnie actually lovingly provided to us in this conversation. Like, I think that what you're bringing here today, this sequence that you're going to be teaching us, is going to be something that allows us to kind of look at ourselves deeply so that we are capable of taking on the process essentially that Bonnie describes. So you just go
That's
for it.
exactly right. And I really like the way you put it because I frame this in different lingo as a
Mm-hmm.
professional hypnotist. This is a technique that the way I would describe it, which is just another way of saying what you just said, it allows us to connect with more aspects of our consciousness and a deeper set of resources so that we can like actually move forward in a way that like our whole selves feel better about.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, but before we do too, and I just want, I'll make this brief, but one theme that came through that I thought was interesting is, towards the beginning of the comments, like it kind of like maybe two or three of the comments touched on the fact that maybe as we age, we either have less energy for this or we don't
Mm-hmm.
care as much about how other people perceive us.
Right.
We don't have it, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's where we
The
get,
older I get, the less I care how people see me. Yeah.
well, yes. And
Right. I
then,
hear that a lot.
say it, but if we're
And
talking
to some
about,
degree, that's not bad.
yeah, you're right. To some degree, that's not bad. To some degree, we need to be way less concerned about what other people think about us. But then you cross this like threshold where you might become the old bitchy Karen or the crotchety old man who just doesn't care, and you just kind of let your be an asshole, like, and don't care, right? And we need to talk about that.
I
Bec-
mean, spend 5 minutes on an internet comment thread and you will find people who need to be asking themselves these better questions.
well, and exactly. So we pick these topics that get really rich really quick, and this is part of it too, where if the person, it's at this point, the age old question on the internet. If that person was right in front of you, would you say those things that you're typing to them? Some people might. Some people might not, because it's dehumanized online and it's easier to be an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
way easier to feel justified. And that's another like layer to this, like how people feel justified in being an a-hole, right? Like they really do.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, there's a lot we could talk about here. And I think part of the reason this was a spicier topic for engagement with people online is it's a little outrageous. When you're an asshole or when someone's an asshole, it's an outrage. And that gets clicks. Outrage gets clicks in our world, right? And that's not why we're doing this. I'm not saying that. It's just like outrage moves us.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it moves us to be an asshole, right?
That's right.
And sometimes we're moved into outrage from someone else being an asshole. So this technique that I want to teach you guys today, I oftentimes with our hypnotic meditation here, I try to have fun with imagination, and allow everybody here to kind of have fun with your imagination, because having fun with your imagination is a cornerstone of deep learning. This one is more of just a straightforward hypnotic technique that I learned from my teacher. It's called the Alpha Sequence, and it's based on the work of Maxwell Cade and Anna Wise. But my teacher, Erica Flint, really kind of developed this. And this is a simple 5-step technique that basically does put you in quick and direct contact with the more fullness of your being, and to strip the lingo away from that. It takes you out of this maybe smaller minded state of emotional upheaval in this case, where say you are being faced with this question, was I an asshole? Or you're like thinking that you might feel justified being an asshole, or maybe you're faced with someone being an asshole, and what do you do? Like oftentimes you're left not knowing what to do. This is what to do. And I guarantee you, if you take the more you practice this, the better you get at it. And it can take you all of 20, 30 seconds to change your state using this technique, and then respond in a way that you're going to feel better about in the long run. And then the more you practice, the more it can become second nature. But when you start, you might say, excuse me, and pull yourself out of the situation, do this technique and put yourself in it. It might take you a few minutes. And the more you practice, the better you get, the faster it comes, the more natural and more automatic your thoughtful responses can become. So it's simple, 5 steps. So if you'd like to join me for this, what's normally a hypnotic meditation, if you'd like to join me for this hypnotic technique, just find a comfortable, you can do this anytime, anywhere. You don't even need to be seated, but if you want to be seated or lying down, go ahead. It'll take just a few seconds here. We're going to walk through 5 easy steps. The first step of this alpha sequence technically is to close your eyes, but do this with me first, because this is going to make it more effective for us here. Find a spot on the wall that's above your natural eye gaze. Your head faces forward, your eyes are upturned a little bit, and really focus in on that spot. When you take a deep breath in, really focus in on that spot and look at every little detail. Focus in like you're eagle-eyeing it. And then as you exhale, look through the spot and you engage your peripheral vision, noticing the other walls in the room, imagining looking through that wall or the ceiling. And now, when you're ready, close your eyes. Just this simple intentional step of closing your eyes helps to start to put you in a predominantly alpha brainwave state, which is a more relaxed and receptive state to enter into deeper communication with your subconscious mind, which is the essence of hypnosis. First step, close your eyes. And you can do the trick where you are looking above your natural eye gaze. Step 2, relax your jaw and really relax it. Just let it drop. Your mouth might hang open slightly. See how relaxed you can get this part of your body. And as you do, it sends a signal to every muscle, nerve, and cell in your body that now is the time to relax. It takes you from a sympathetic nervous system response into a parasympathetic nervous system response. And you might feel a wave of relaxation in your entire body. Good. Step 3, slow down your breathing. Just get into a comfortable, slower rhythm of breathing and don't force anything. But we do want to have a long exhalation. So allow your exhalation to be extra long. Breathe all the air out of your lung, but no forcing, where this is a relaxed, slow rate of breathing, slower than just a second ago. And just use the power of your attention to slow down your rate of breathing. A really long exhalation. Again, helping to move us into a parasympathetic nervous system response. Good. Next step, relax the back of your tongue. This is a very curious suggestion, but when you relax this part of your body, see how relaxed you can get the back of your tongue. So often we are preparing to speak. We're listening in preparation to react or respond. There's nothing to do right now, no one to be, nothing to say. Give that part of your mind that's always preparing to speak a little break. And right now, by relaxing the back of your tongue and allowing your tongue just to rest, relaxed in your mouth, you're decoupling that part of your brain from the back of your tongue that's always preparing to speak. Step 5, drop your consciousness into your heart. We often think about the seat of our consciousness somewhere in our head, in our brain. Right now, imagine that you can drop the seat of your consciousness, the seat of your very awareness, down out of your head into the center of your chest. Just imagine it. And if that's unclear to you, just pretend. You don't have to know exactly, precisely what to do here. Your imagination knows exactly what to do. Drop your consciousness into your heart. And when you're feeling better, open your eyes. Thanks for joining me in learning the alpha sequence today. So, if you're curious about these 5 steps, send me an email, freedom@higherstatehypnosis.com, and I'll send you these 5 steps that you can begin to practice on your own if you haven't kind of caught them in your body right now.
That was awesome. That was really, really succinct and something that anybody can do.
Yep.
And it's the idea of that this idea of atonement being so complicated and complex is true, but this tool is simple.
That's right. And we need simple because when you're keyed up and you're in the heat of the moment and you're feeling something that is prompting you to potentially act like an asshole, or maybe you did and you're feeling really bad about it, you're emotionally keyed up, you're not going to remember anything complicated. You
That's
need
right.
something very simple. And the more you practice, I know this, I use it daily. I don't want to be melodramatic and say that it saved my life, but it has.
I would say
It totally
so. I
has.
mean, I hope it's okay for me to say this, Tim, but you have mentioned this technique to me many times. And you tend to rely on this tool pretty heavily when you're going through something hard,
Well,
and
and I use
it
it,
gets you
it's part
by.
of, well, you're right. And I use it, I mean, it's part of a larger context for me in having a habitual practice that I think is important for everybody, what I call a restorative practice, whether that's meditation or prayer or self hypnosis, which is what I practice, and meditation. And I started off with this. So you can use it in that context too. But I know it now well enough where I can do this alpha sequence and change my state completely within the matter of 20 or 30 seconds. And instead of reacting from a place of hurt or whatever, outrage, which is so easy to act from, you respond more thoughtfully. And if there was one thing, I'm like, what do I do for this hypnotic meditation for this topic? And this is the one thing I want to impart. So if anybody's watching this, practice it. Let me know how it goes for you. If you need any assistance or guidance with these steps, send me an email and I'll help you with
Yeah,
it.
we also have the links to work with us in every description of every video we make. While this is our weekly ritual, as we say in the intention setting portion of the video, Tim just talked about his daily ritual. And it could very well be that you would like to develop better rituals for yourself. That's what Tim and I serve to offer. And to work with either of us or both of us, you can set an appointment with either of us. It's just that simple. Go to the description of any of our videos, including this one, and go to the link below. If you want to talk to Tim about that, talk to Tim about that. If you want to talk to me about that, it's just as well. So we really want to work with you. And there have been occasions where people want to work with both of us, and we can make that work. We can put together something very special for you that is a package that works very well for you. And Tim and I, behind the scenes, are cooking up some very special things for the future. So keep watching, keep staying tuned, because we have ideas for things that we'd like to bring forth for all of those of you who've been with us all this time, watching this weekly program, and knowing that there's ways that we continue to share with one another that we'd like to connect you all. So stay tuned for that, because that has always been a part of the plan, and we want to start putting that into motion soon. I hate to be vague, but until we narrow down specifics, we won't be making any giant announcements, but we will just tell you, stay tuned, stay with us, come join us every Sunday, and don't be shy. Say something in the comments if something resonates, and we will see it either live or in the future. We'll be happy to hear what you have to say and get your feedback. Have a wonderful and joyous rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you next week.